All right, here we are. It is Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton on Markets podcasts around the world in 77 nations. I saw Slovakia on there. I saw the Congo. I have seen Ukraine. We are everywhere. It's pretty crazy. I would love to see us in more of the Gulf states, especially now with all the conflicts going on. But we're going to welcome everybody to what we're going to call season 3 here, because we have been off the air for a little bit because it has been chaotic. And I am here with everybody's favorite co-host, but she is the host with the most. It's Jennifer Fenton. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. How you doing?
Why have we been off the air for so long?
Well, it's been a busy end of the summer. It started with some family travel. We went to Mexico with my family, with my dad, his girlfriend, my sister, her husband, the kids, and that was so much fun. Like, it was nice to get away. We were in Cabo. We had a great time. The weather was phenomenal. And that's how we kicked off the end of the summer. It was actually one of the first times we had Dylan and Kaylee in the same place together because he was gone all summer, right? We came home on a Sunday, and literally Tuesday morning at like 5 a.m., you left for business trip. Then Kaylee and I flew out a few days later to move her into her dorm at Tulane. You met us there. After we moved Kaylee into the dorm, we literally flew to Montreal. Dylan met us there. We moved Dylan into his new house. He's living with 5 of his lacrosse boys.
Yeah, we'll get into the more specifics
here for a sec. Hang on. And then I flew home, and then you flew out again for business. So have you been home at all in August?
So that brings me back to the reason why we've been on a hiatus, why I've gotten some DMs from people asking, are we still doing the podcast? And of course, we're still doing the podcast. This is season number 3, but we did take a hiatus. I noticed when I listened to or watched Bill Maher, he always takes like a month off. I think maybe we should have announced that perhaps we were going to take time off, although I was under the sneaking suspicion or mistaken suspicion that we would still be able to do this with everything else going on. I have no idea. So,
like, in your head, when we got back from Mexico on that Sunday and you were leaving Tuesday at 5 a.m., did you think that Monday night we were going to be able to do this?
Yeah, the whole thing was just poorly planned on my mark. We should have said, hey, you know what? We're going to end season 2. We'll kick off season 3 when we all get back. But yeah, I haven't slept in my own bed until the, late Thursday night I got in, and that was a 2-week stint. But it was unbelievable how much, how many different places we went. Because I went to, I was in Nashville, then I flew from Nashville to New Orleans, then New Orleans to Atlanta to Montreal back to Atlanta, back to
Los Angeles.
So, but it was a tremendously successful for so many reasons. So I want to give a quick applause to
your
both
wife
of us.
For
I want to pat us both on the back.
We only lost our shit, or I only lost it a couple times on you.
Yes, but and even more importantly, you've only lost your SHIT on the kids. Probably more than me, but still,
I disagree.
I would say it was under the cap that I gave you.
Can I tell you something?
The over/under, you kept it on the under, so whoever bet that she was going to keep her cool more than the average sort of obstacle course that we have in life, those people are the winner.
So I'm actually going to call you out because I think I lost it more on you than I did the kids. The kids and I were in a really good groove for each of the moves. We were on the same wavelength. Obviously there's some snippy moments. At one point, Dylan said to me, we had some issues with his air conditioning, not going to lie. And we can go into that in a moment. And at one point, you were at Home Depot in Canada, and I was on my way to IKEA with Dylan in Montreal. And Dylan just said to me, Mom, I think we need to take a moment of silence. And that was the first time that he didn't bait me. That was the first time he didn't push my buttons. He knew that tensions were flaring. He knew that we were stressed because you and I were both leaving the very next morning and we needed to get his house done. And he was so smart to just say, like, we're not going to do this. Let's take a breather. And I really appreciated that. That to me is like a huge growth mindset. He and I also made fun of you together So I think he and I buddied up a little bit. Kaylee the same way. We were moving her in, and I think there was a couple times where she looked at me and she's like, "Where's Dad?" I'm like, "You know what? I have no idea. You and I are
okay.
just
Well,
gonna keep
wait.
plowing through."
Come on, backtrack here. What is Dad's? First of all, and this is Empty Nesting, Plate Ponder, Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton.
Did you forget the name?
I just forgot it for a second. We've been off for a little bit, but what we do here is we talk about the pros and cons and trials and tribulations and chaos and calmness of empty nesting. Apparently, empty nesting is supposed to be calmer and more peaceful than we've
It
found
will be
out.
again.
It will be, except we're going to be going back and forth to Montreal to see games and parents' weekends and all that kind of stuff.
So fun.
It's super fun, but it's not like the calm. Like you and I have not been playing shuffleboard
Well, I don't
or
think we
sitting at the
ever-
old age home yet.
Okay, number one, I'm not even 50. So I'm not even going to say I'm allowed to. You're the one that gets AARP mail, not me.
Okay, so
The shuffleboard context, not okay for me.
Okay, so on Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton, we talk about the empty nesting stuff, and then sometimes we'll hit a couple serious subjects in the news. But we are talking about empty nesting chaos right now on this episode because the last 2 weeks were empty nesting chaos.
I would
but
almost say
talk
3 weeks.
But let's talk about like what Dad's role typically is
So
in
your
college
role-
move-in, right?
okay, it
Because
is
I do it.
typically-
I nail it. I nail it all the time, and you guys are being very, very...
I don't know. I feel like you were a little distracted during both moves, and the kids backed me up. Like, here's a perfect example. Can I give you
they
an example?
backed me up every time you were
No.
starting to get angry or frustrated.
Can I give you
with
an
me.
example of why I think that you were like a little distracted? So as we're moving something up in Dylan's house, and Dylan's room is on the 3rd floor, you're carrying something up, and all of a sudden you get a phone call, and like you stop midway on the stairs and you take this phone call. I'm thinking to myself, like, what are you doing? Like, finish walking up the stairs, bring this box up. I need to keep this moving. And you did not have the same level of urgency.
Okay, but let's put the practicality behind it. I mean, I'm not going to say the name, but it was a phone call from one of the
Yes.
biggest CEOs in the
Yes,
country.
I get that.
and it's an initiative that I've been working on.
100%. But it was just funny because I'm sitting there like Kaylee's was so much easier this time around. Last year, she was in a dorm that was known as the most social dorm on campus, but it was also known as one of the grimiest. And it definitely felt that way. Like, there were always people hanging out and it was always lively. But we walked out of that dorm last year feeling dirty, feeling like even her new stuff was everything was just dirty. I don't know. I can't explain it. This new dorm was so nice. It was so clean. Like, even the common areas weren't dingy. It was really beautiful. And her room is great. And her roommate Goldie got there a few days before I did, so she totally helped set up the room. Kaylee's move legitimately was like 9 to 2. And that even included a Target and a Michael's run in between. Like, we were fast and furious. Dylan's was just a lot more work.
Well, let's set the stage. First of all, another thing for empty nesters or future college move-in people is that there is a big difference. And it's all chaotic, especially the first time you do it, but this is the second time. So if you're moving a kid into a school that happens to have mandatory on-campus living for sophomores,
Like
which is
Tulane.
something that's a little different than I think a lot of the public universities probably don't force that, but the private ones tend to, and that is really 100 times easier when you're moving them into a college residence hall, even though it's one of the nicer ones because it's their sophomore year, it's not their freshman. You have all these things that you don't have to worry about, from everything from, how are the hallways cleaned? How are the bathrooms stacked? How's electricity and gas paid for, internet, all that kind of stuff, cable. It's all set up. You don't have to do anything. And then on top of it, all you got to do is worry about the room. The room is already pretty clean because they have to clean it out between residences.
Also, I'll add one more thing. A lot of times your sophomore year, you are bringing some of the stuff that you had from freshman year, i.e. last year you had to build Kaylee's headboard. You had to build Kaylee's hutch. There were like all these things that you had to do last year that this year we put in storage and had them delivered to the room.
And then there's also a couple big things that are already, there's a bed already in there.
The
right?
bed's already there.
So
and then the beds are already lofted and raised. So they have a dresser that's underneath the bed. We bought another dresser. Both Kaylee and Goldie bought this really cool. We did like a Hamptons vibe. The room looked great. We bought this rug. We bought this step stool. We bought a TV. Like this room is super styling. We put up sconces on the walls. We did artwork.
Yeah,
Kaylee's got like black and white surfers. Goldie has black and white equestrian.
I wonder if we can put like a photo up on the episode so people can see it. Maybe we do that.
Maybe.
So what's interesting is that this is an interesting thing for people to know that haven't done this before. So maybe you'll get some education out of this banter. And then obviously I apologize to others who have been through this and are listening and are like, we get all this. So now you cut to Dylan. Dylan is moving into a place that's essentially the dead end, which actually,
which ironically I don't want
to get too serious. Too location based on that, but
thank you for pulling me back. I appreciate that.
But it's in a lacrosse house. It's near the stadium. It's been handed down from teammates to teammates over the years, and typically guys live in it for 3 years. They move in sophomore year, and then it's turned over to another crop,
which is what he'll do.
Yeah, so I guess sophomores turn it over, or it's turned over to sophomores by the seniors. So what's interesting is this place had several turnovers, like maybe 5 sets of 3 years a piece, 15 years of it. And it's a big, it's a big house. It's 3 stories. It's got a balcony and a kitchen and if any of the
ladies have watched Off Campus, that's kind of what it feels like, that house. Like instead of hockey players in that older house with like red Solo cups and beer every place, it's lacrosse players.
The crazy part is it's a brick brownstone on a street that, if it was in a 40-something professional family neighborhood, it probably would be a spectacular house. It's probably 100 years old. It's, got incredible wood inside it.
And some stained glass windows.
And the railings. But it's
been used
gone
and
to
abused.
heck in a way from multiple years. But what's crazy is for a good 15 years, I think is what the landlord said, there was never a break between the turnover where the landlord could come in and fix stuff. So fortunately, we had a couple parents of the kids who live in the area that checked it out, and a great grandfather who happened to be a policeman.
We've talked about
a
this
retired
before.
Policeman. And he saw it, and it was one of the worst places he's ever seen. So we got on the landlord, and we cleared it out for a month, and the landlord just redid a lot of stuff, not to the standards that any parent on here would think is.
Are you saying
livable?
No, in all honesty, all the parents, like, we were on our hands and knees cleaning dust boards. Like, it was
they painted,
dirty.
they fixed railings.
They did not clean the individual paint the individual rooms. Like, correct. Dylan's room looks like, the painting I probably should have painted.
But they sanded beer varnish. Essentially, there was an inch
sticky
coating of beer that had turned into some sort of beer, like a varnish
glaze
on top. They sanded all that out, and they made it a lot better. But it is a way different task moving a kid into that, because not only do you have to figure out how to do their room, which was a disaster because it was barely like cleaned after the kids left.
I had to call the 1-800-GOT-JUNK people to take out the person who lived there, his bed, his desk, his broken dresser in the closet. Like, I had to pay for that because otherwise we couldn't move Dylan's.
Multiple junk runs.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you got to figure out what you're doing with the sort of the family room, the kitchen, which was a disaster. Like, how do you clean that? So it's a completely different mess of chaos when you're off campus, especially an off-campus home versus probably an apartment.
That's the other thing. Like, Dylan had to go downtown because I guess each of the boys are taking some sort of responsibility. So Dylan went downtown to deal with the Wi-Fi, and he had to set that up for the house.
Yep.
And he said he did it. I'm really proud of him.
There's adult stuff going on.
They are
definitely
adulting.
Adult stuff. There's people there's some guy in charge of the cable, some guy in charge of the the gas stuff, and
it's impressive.
Turning on the electricity, and then by the way, we probably owe rent at some point. I can't remember when.
Yeah,
I
think we do
next
too.
Thing of rent. But it's a learning experience. They do have 2.5 bathrooms in it between how many guys? 7?
6. Because the 7th bedroom, I can't even speak. They've turned into
for guests.
Well, it's not for guests. They've turned it into a poker room.
Oh, is it a poker room? But it's also their lacrosse.
I don't know if that's where the lacrosse stuff. I think they really wanted to set it up as a poker room.
Oh, well, it's going to be interesting, and hopefully it doesn't turn into a Penn State fraternity situation there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
you went there.
That's quite a story, I gotta say. It's the Tony Montana of colleges out there.
Wow.
Right?
Well, look, I'm just going to say, and I'm not going to name names, and I'm not going to, admit a liability. I am. But I'm just saying, I don't think Penn State is the only school that has this issue.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if you saw it at Cornell, but I mean, it was definitely an issue at Penn.
I knew
Penn, not Penn State.
There was the
Wait, you're interrupting me.
Oh, sorry.
I said Penn, not Penn State, because I actually want to take the ooh, look at me. Yeah. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm going to do that. I earned it.
Wow, that's so. Do I do it?
No.
I do that. Yay!
Yay
Ivy
for
League
me.
School. Yay for Jennifer.
It's always about me.
So yeah, well, I knew there was the fraternity at the time was called the nickname was Theta Drug. It was Theta Delt, and they were known.
Oh, that's funny.
They were known to have hard drugs in that house. I had never seen hard drugs when I was in college. Call that ignorant or naive or whatever, but it wasn't a big thing in the college Cornell situation back then, at least with the crowd I hung out with. So obviously when you get to Hollywood, you start to see it a lot. But the Penn State thing is sort of interesting. I mean, first of all, they're going to have to think about they have the big whiteout game every year.
Okay, but I'm also going to tell you, I think we're going to have to rename that because whiteout means something very different according to the kids.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, I mean, the athletic director, I guess, apparently there were reports he was involved with this thing. So, at least he was getting drugs from kids rather than something else.
Are you sure he wasn't supplying the drugs to the kids?
No, I don't think he was. I think
he was just partying with them?
A couple of Sigma Chi's and Delta Epsilon kids that were the ringmasters.
Wow.
But it's crazy. They had like pledges, bagging it, and and they had guns in the safe and
okay,
stuff.
I'm
like
totally
the whole thing
picturing.
is insane.
I'm picturing like a narco scene where the people are in a basement and they're sitting in their underwear.
Yeah.
Right? Because kind of like
in the middle of the jungle in Colombia.
Right? Like with Dylan when he worked at the casino and they had to sew up his pockets, right? These drug lords don't want you wearing any clothes because they don't want you stealing any of like the bricks or the bags. So they have you almost naked doing the work. Is that what these pledges were doing in the basement of a fraternity house?
Yeah, I guess it's like the whole thing is just.
I mean, this is out of a movie.
It is completely out of a movie, and it's just weird that the university that was known for Jerry Sandusky is caught up in this. Like that, it's just
it's sort of like one punch after the other. Because I think as people stopped forgetting about the Sandusky, and I'm not saying you should stop forgetting about it, but it definitely wasn't as pervasive in the news. Sure enough, Penn State comes up. And the headline is now about some crazy drug bust.
Yeah, here's the tweet of the day the other day that I saw. It said, sure, kids at Penn State were selling blow to the athletic director, but at least they weren't getting blown by the athletic director.
Oh,
I call that progress. I'm like, okay, there you go.
There you go. We've taken a few steps forward, I guess. I don't know.
All right, so
that's kind of funny.
How did we get to Penn State and the cocaine scandal there? That's sort of interesting. But going back to the move-in, I do think there's just a lot of lessons learned from. I would talk to as many if you haven't done a college move-in yet, say you have freshmen or sophomores in high school or whatever. talk to as many parents as possible who have done it. Because quite frankly, I would say my wife was really prepared both years. She had stuff delivered. And then, by the way, it's a whole other level of move-in when you have to fly to where your kids go to school. I mean, for me, I drove to Cornell. I think my parents moved me in my freshman year with me. That was a big to-do. But then sophomore year, I think they just, watched me pack up my car and wave goodbye as I drove to Cornell. So,
Nope.
So, but driving to school is a very different situation. The whole flying situation, it requires just a lot more complications.
It requires a lot more planning.
Yes.
And I am a planner, so thankfully that went well. It was just a little more challenging with Dylan being in a different country, because it's not even like I could send stuff, UPS. You heard my diatribe on FedEx. Thankfully, actually,
that's right. We hit that last time.
Everything got delivered. There was a little bit of coordination that then it happened on the back end where we had to coordinate with the landlord to bring it inside because we didn't want all of the furniture pieces sitting outside and get stolen. But look, it ended up being okay. The biggest issue, I think, was actually that AC unit in his room, because his window was so small. And this is one of those things, like, we didn't have the dimensions before we got there.
Yeah, that's a big difference between on campus and off campus. Once again, is there's things like, how does the room get cooled and heated? Usually there's old heating stuff, but there's definitely no cooling. And as people know, there's at least, even up in Montreal, it's hot until like you get into September. And you have to figure out like how you get in that heating or that cooling situation in. And I haven't put an AC unit in a long time, and I didn't realize
I could tell.
Wait a minute.
Be fair.
Be fair. Who got it done?
You did, with the help of one of the other dads who kind of gave a little bit of.
No, he actually gave me a wrong measurement. A wrong measurement, which I knew was wrong, and I said that it was wrong, but I went with his because everybody's like, he would do it, he knows best, and I had to do it over again.
Okay, what we did find out? That this is not a window unit, but a floor unit, which is actually what we ended up with because the window was too small and we couldn't fit one in. Do you know that a floor unit has to be 100% level? Otherwise, it leaks like it's going pee.
Yes, and how did we find that out? We asked AI.
We asked AI. My assistant helped,
because
and we
the
jerry-rigged
instructions
it.
did not mention that. And in
were
fact,
the instructions in French?
No, well, they had French and English. But the other thing was, all it takes is we were -2 degrees,
maybe
off or
-4.
Something. No, I think it was -2, and we got it to 0. That's all it took, was just that little part to make it leaky. The other thing is, I find this interesting. I could ask you, so what BTUs work really well to cool down a room like Dylan has?
I think it was 800.
No. Oh, that's sad. You're not as good with the numbers as I thought. You got the 8 right, but it was 8,000 BTUs.
Oh, just kidding.
But if you recall, the 8,000 BTU one was too big for
the window,
what we were trying to get it into. So we had to do the 6,000 BTUs, which is only good for 250 square feet, which happens to be a little smaller than the room that he's in.
No,
but
the room stayed really cool.
Yeah, it stayed cool. Now, what we really wanted to do was get the 12,000 BTUs, but that was huge. And it would not work. So anyway, BTUs, we got big into BTUs. And do you know what BTU stands for? You can't look it up.
I don't.
British Thermal Unit.
Oh, is that like my sister? She says aircon.
Oh, but there's no aircon. By the way, think about that. There's no aircon in London or in Great Britain.
No, there are aircons.
I mean, not a lot, because Gretchen or Gretel, or is it Gretel? Gretchen Thunberg told everybody to not use AC in Europe. That's why we don't go to Europe in the summertime. It's just
too hot.
You schwitz too much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love all the distracted ADD conversation here. So what else should we hit on this episode? Because I think we should try to do another one tomorrow, just back to back to kick off season 3.
That's a lot of obligation on me.
Yeah. So, okay, let me... You know what? Going back to what was sort of funny with how much travel and chaos was going on, because I worked on the front end, then we had these 2 move-ins, and then I worked on the back end. And in that phone call I had to take from that CEO, he's like, "Are you in town? Like, we start bright and early tomorrow." And I go, "Yeah, I'm so," or he's like, "You're in the area, right? Because we start bright and early tomorrow." And I go, "Yeah, I'm in the area." He's like, "Oh, really? Where, what part?" And I was like, "Montreal." And I was supposed to be in Atlanta. He's like, I was like, "Don't worry. I got the first flight out from Montreal tomorrow. Hopefully it's fine. And I'll be there." He's like, "Montreal?" It was sort of like one of the, "Why are you in Montreal?"
Long story.
By the way, that's another thing too, is that off campus, on campus, plane versus car move in, but then cross nation, cross border. And we know a couple people with kids at like St. Andrews, like shout out Dan Helly and his kid. I think even Walter Hamada's daughter went to St. Andrews or Cambridge or one of them. So that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
It's hard enough getting up to Canada, but Europe is a whole other thing.
Here's what's great. Dylan is there for the next 3 years. So theoretically, next August, we drive Dylan to the airport and say, "Bye, I love you. See you, in a couple of weeks for your first game." Like, we don't have to do his move again. That's the beauty. Kaylee's will move. She'll move into an off-campus house, and so we'll have to do it again with Kaylee. But I think kind of like the dorm moves, every year you get a little better. And I think we will hire a TaskRabbit to help us in Kaylee's house, put together like the IKEA furniture and the Wayfair furniture, because that is just time consuming. It really is. And that's what we found with Dylan, that I think had we had somebody help us out, it may have expedited so we could take care of something like the AC and focus on that rather than leaving it for the last minute.
Yep. 100%.
Right. Because I got to give my kid credit. I have to tell you. So Dylan, this entire time, was like, "No, Mom, we can't hire the TaskRabbit." Apparently, I'm the fancy one in the house, so I think maybe he was a little embarrassed if I hired somebody to help out. Did not understand this until sort of the end, but once we kind of got down and dirty, Dylan's like, "No, it will be fun. We're going to have such a great time. We can put together this bed." And thinking to myself, okay, well, according to the instructions, it's going to take 3 people and it's going to take 4 hours. Dylan's like, no, I don't think so. You know what? Dylan put the bed together. I helped him a little bit, but Dylan did it in like 2 hours. I think all of the years playing with Legos helped.
Yeah. By the way, he was really good at
putting
Legos.
He was so good though. And he also did the IKEA dresser. You did the desk, which took a really long time.
Wait a minute. I did the desk. I did 6 chairs. I did a lot. Oh, and I helped other people out. There was a single mom down at Tulane that I helped out with things.
That's true.
So I dove in to lend a helping hand as much as possible. And keep in mind, you guys are doing all this stuff in these tiny little rooms. There's no room for me. And on top of it, when there's 3, like in Tulane, we had Kaylee's roommate in there and stuff. So
but
there were
that
3
was a nice size
already. So putting me in there with 4, that's a lot. And then on top of it, you guys are trying to decide where to place things. And I'm just sitting there like going, just give me something to put together. Okay. And then when you and Dylan are together, it's essentially like 2 of the exact same people with 2 of the exact same sort of
wicks.
Temper wicks.
But we did not spontaneously combust.
No,
and when we were about to,
typically I become the punching bag that
which
you
is,
both
it's true.
Start punching and making fun of and mocking and
we did.
And then that, I guess, is my role, is just to keep you guys from fighting, which is good. So it worked out well. I don't know. I was writing down like, what are we going to put in the show notes? And I have the question, who irritated whom the most? Dad took the brunt.
Yeah,
I think
true.
that was sort of it. But you know what? I'm good at taking the brunt.
Okay.
And then, by the way, I'm good at just sort of disappearing sometimes.
No, it was good. And I cried a little bit, not as much as first year.
Yes.
There was like a little, it still feels like a piece of my heart is in New Orleans and Montreal. Like, you leave your kids and you know they are so happy thank goodness, and they're in great programs and they've got great friends and all of that. But you still feel a little sad. And then you come home, and honestly, I opened the fridge the other day and I was like, oh, this is what empty nesting fridge looks like again. I've got my hummus, I've got my carrots, I've got some sparkling water. I don't have Shake Shack, which was been there for 3 days. I don't have Chipotle from last night. Like, it's just a whole lot cleaner. Stuff is put away. My counters aren't sticky from things that have been spilled and not wiped up. Yeah, I'm kind of liking the empty nesting again.
Oh my God. And then yesterday I got home and I got a lot, caught up on work. And then I went for a surf session by myself and there was nobody out. And I got to tell you, if anybody is in SoCal or around the Santa Monica Bay, I have never seen the water as clean and clear as it is right now. It literally is like the Bahamas. It's unbelievable. And then Chris Chapin and I went for an hour and a half today, and the amount of fish I could see I got to get a snorkel and mask. I want to see what's going on down there because it is, the water is approaching 80 degrees, which is
crazy. That's like what it was in Mexico.
Yeah, like off the coast, just right off the coast here, they're catching mahi and like dolphin. On the East Coast, they call it dolphin, but not the porpoise dolphin. It's that beautiful sort of yellow green fish. But they're catching them here. That's stuff you're not supposed to catch north of the Sea of Cortez. They're catching all kinds of marlin, yellowtail, tuna. There's incredible fish that are coming up here because it's 80 degrees.
Is this a foreshadow to La Nina?
Is
this what happened? Okay, is this what happens?
It's El Nino. The son, not the daughter. Or
Okay.
El Nino means baby boy? No,
it means
what is
boy.
It? Boy. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's the boy, which is the one that's
is that the more
blasts us. So hopefully we fixed our leak this year, but
my
the
goodness.
skiing could be epic.
That's true. We're going to do it, but we're skiing in another country.
Yeah, but I'm going to go skiing up in Montana before
should.
that too, just to get a little in. Thank you, Mr. Chapes. But anyway, I think maybe we end it here and we bring season 3, episode 2 in tomorrow. What do you think? Can
Love
you
it.
rally for that?
I love it.
I mean,
Ooh, that was
whoa.
loud.
I think, there we go. I think we had a fantastic first episode of season 3. I want to apologize to everybody that's been dying to hear us multiple times
Just
a week.
dying, I'm sure.
I mean,
they've been waiting on bated breath.
I think people in the Congo, which by the way is one of our 77 markets, were probably like, wait a minute, I just signed up for this and where's my next episode? So anyway, and by the way, shout out to University of Southern California. My first class is next Wednesday.
Humble brag.
That's not a humble brag. I just hope all my kids are listening and learning a little bit about me because I am ready to teach and instruct these kids to be the next greats. What do you think?
Bye.
Until next time, it's Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton. Jen's always the one that everybody likes more. Until next time, which will hopefully be tomorrow, bye-bye.